So, why do you have that scar? The scar is above my right eye. You can't really see it unless I point it out. I picked up a blind, 3-legged cat with no tail when I was 3. I thought all kitties were like my kitties and loved me. God, was I wrong? I've got a scar over my right eye from a cat too, but mine is because my sister threw it at me. Because I fell off a freaking igloo. I live in Connecticut, just to be clear. When I was little my dad built an igloo and sprayed it with water to freeze over. I climbed on top of it and decided to fall off. Split my chin open. Still have the scar 25 years later. Because when I was a child I stole the TV remote from my father and played keep away. While running full speed through my house I turned to see how close he was. Turned my head forwards again and ran full pelt into the corner of a wall, splitting the skin and causing a hairline skull fracture. I still have a 3cm dented scar in the center of my forehead to this day. Also caused a dimple in my left cheek when I smile by pretty much doing the exact same thing on another occasion. Except with no skull fracture, just a torn muscle in my face. Oh god. You just reminded me of when my 5-year-old brother ran full pelt into the staircase. God knows why he did that, but he had a golf ball sized lump on his head for weeks. I'm dying with laughter here remembering this. I turned the tuner on my guitar the wrong way when I was trying to take off the string. Somehow I didn't notice the tension increasing until it snapped. Being retarded, I removed 2 more strings this way and nearly blinded myself. Then, I realized you're supposed to loosen the string and then take it off, not tighten it until it snaps off. Somehow I have survived natural selection. That is why I wear a welding mask while changing strings. I do just fine at it, I'm just paranoid. Old timer here. Back before frisbees were invented, we threw flying saucers, which were hubcaps. Back then, hubcaps were heavier and metal. I didn't duck too well. 5 stitches on the back of my head, mimicking Superman by diving flying down a hill. Sliced hand on glass. 3 stitches. Never thought I'd read a story beginning with back before frisbees were invented. My appendix exploded when my family and I were on vacation when I was 5. Talk about a painful 2-hour drive to the hospital. TLDR. Bear fight. Quit doing drugs 2 years ago, but I have scars not in the crook of my forearm, but up and down my veins on my forearm. I also have scars at the top of my arms, where you get vaccinations. It's a point of embarrassment for me, because I don't want to go swimming and now that it's summer I don't want to wear short sleeves. I also work in professional finance and I don't want people to see or know because it could affect the way that I am perceived as an employee and potentially affect my career. Don't really have many people who understand this problem. I also have a scar on my forehead hairline because my dad was on the phone when I was a kid and I piled up all of my stuffed animals on a chair and climbed to the top and promptly fell off and hit my head on the corner of the coffee table. If it makes you feel any better, I know that regular blood tests, for people taking lithium, can give you track marks, so if anyone asks just say you have a liver disorder and you need regular blood tests. Excisional biopsy on my left neck side on a lymph node. Turned out to be Hodgkin's lymphoma, and after chemo and rads I'm clean. I have a matching one, except it was ovarian cancer, that got lost and found its way up to my neck. One of my balls didn't drop because it was stuck, so they cut open my ball sack in the area next to my penis and moved it. That was 8 years ago, so the details are kind of vague to me. I do remember soiling myself on the car ride home and puking on my grandmother. Man, you dropped the ball on this one. I wish it was from some epic battle or miraculously surviving a car accident, but no. When I was a kid I picked the scab on my cheek too often, and that's about as interesting as I get. I was playing soccer and juked a guy out so hard that he tried to attack me. What actually happened? I made one too many yo mama jokes. Because I was running away from Joseph and Andrew on my bike, and I took a gravel covered corner too hard and fell. Then Joseph, who was right behind me on a bike that didn't work, ran me over. If he ran over you, I believe the bike worked. Stole my sister's homework and ran around with it when we were kids. Should have also stolen her scissors. On the flip side, a thin long scar down entire right side of face is an excellent conversation piece. I used to share a bunk bed with my younger brother, and as the older kid I was on the top bunk. One night we were messing around, pulling our pajama bottoms way up to our chests and sticking our arms through the leg sockets alongside our legs. We were pretending to be goblins or some crap. I dunno. I rolled off the side of the bunk bed accidentally and landed on the corner of one of our toy boxes. Now the box was shaped like this, with the edges protruding out to make it easier to carry. Sadly, when chubby 8-year-old me fell on the box, the corner snapped off, a good 3 inches of it, and deeply embedded itself in my hip. Scar is still there today. When I was young, my puppy jumped up and bit onto my left middle finger and slid down off the finger, leaving a very slight straight scar down the finger. When I was 4, my brother and I were jumping on our parents' waterbed. He jumped off because he saw something interesting, came back on the bed to jump with it. It was a screwdriver that collided with the flesh immediately to the right of my right eye. In 2006, a friend put a metal ruler on a gas heater for 5 minutes, then transferred it onto my left arm, burning me. It's faded mostly, but you can still make out a slight straight edge. 3 years ago, at a friend of a friend's going away party, someone asked me to light their cigarette in a hole in the side of the barrel that we were having a fire in. I somehow managed to press my forearm against it for a second, enough to leave a small burn scar. Was too drunk to realize I'd burned myself, however. That's all for now. I went dune bodyboarding and went down Dune 7, standing at 130 meters high. It is also considered to be the biggest dune in Namibia's chain of coastal dunes. Went down 130 meters at a speed fast enough to prevent me from pushing my one arm out to slow down. Hit the tourist visitors' side gravel and went skidding a couple of meters on without my board. A stuffed up shoulder, swollen eye and 7 stitches down the side of my forehead later. I survived to tell the tale and warn others to never overwax your board. I had cysts in my parotid gland on the right side of my face. They rapidly grew over 3 days and when probed nothing came out. I underwent emergency surgery after having an allergic reaction to the medicine they gave me to reduce the swelling. The doctor removed a large egg-sized cyst that was filled with dried blood as well as a few smaller ones. I now have permanent loss of sensation on the right side of my cheek, neck and ear and a scar from the drainage that was inserted into my neck after my face was stitched back on. I still have cysts and low function from that gland, so I have to massage it and suck on sour candy to help produce saliva. I played bumper cars when I was about 4 years old. Accidentally bumped into this rather larger kid. Grabs my head and thrusts it against the edge of a brick wall. I don't even think I told my mum about this. Good lord. A Lego. I was running away from my sister and tripped down the stairs. At the bottom, there was a Lego that split my chin open. Legos are indeed evil. I stupidly tried to take away a piece of wedding cake from a psychotic menopausal obese woman. She latched down on my arm like a freaking crocodile. You can still see the outline of her mouth on my skin. I'm gonna go on a limb and say username. Well, it all started in 8th grade. In gym we had to run around our school courtyard. So one day our coach decided to make us jump over the stone benches in the yard. Not a good idea. Lazy me thinks I can just step over it. Nope. I didn't get high enough and I hit my knee in the side of the stone bench. The school nurse says stitches for sure. My mom had other ideas. Needless to say, it never got stitches. It got infected and took about 3 weeks to close up. But now at least I have a badass scar. TLDR. I hit my knee, needed stitches. Never got them. In grade 4, the kid who would never wear anything to school but a John Deere cap and John Deere t-shirt freaked out and bit my hand. First morning on my milk round, was warned that a certain pathway was a bit slippery when wet as it was currently bucketing it down with rain. I was of course fully prepared for it to be a little bit slippery when I walked over it. What I was not prepared for was for it be like black ice. I don't remember falling over. I simply remember waking up. I was flat on my back and had a crate full of broken glass bottles next to me. I quickly pieced together that I had slipped and knocked myself out, but I couldn't figure out what the black stuff on my arm was. It was very dark. Blood is either dark brown or black in low light, and why it kept coming back when I wiped it away. It was only when I stood up that the cobwebs cleared out of my head and I realized what had happened. There wasn't just one cut, but several up and down my right forearm, from the hand right up to the elbow. In total I needed 26 stitches, and whilst most of the smaller cuts have now disappeared, I do still have a large scar right on my elbow and on my hand. Left forearm, was stabbed while breaking up a bar fight. Left wrist, hot gun muzzle burned my wrist while I was pushing it out and away so I could jack up its user. A mentally ill homeless man tried to kill me with a straight razor in Boston while I was out running at 2 AM. Insomnia will kill you. He got me across the left pectoral down to the bone. It was winter time and super cold. Did I mention it was Boston? So I didn't feel or realize he had managed to cut me. I was teaching martial arts at the time and had been for nearly a decade at that point. So I stepped back, caught him on the backswing and broke his arm and his jaw. Called the police, who showed up about 10 hypothermic minutes later, and an ambulance showed up for the guy. I proceeded to run home because I'm freezing my nether regions off. Get to my porch, realize my left foot is wet, look down, see bloody footprints in the snow behind me. Left shoe had filled with blood. I thought I had just stepped in some slush. One of the paramedics, an MD, doing a ride along, had been chasing me through the street following my bloody left footprint with a giant bag on his shoulder, and proceeded to yell at me as he ripped my sweater. Yes, I was jogging in a sweater. It was 5 degrees outside. Open and exposed my blood-soaked torso. Stitches, staples, and a very nice scar. Been using scar removal creams and pads on it for years, so it's only about 3 inches long now and about half an inch wide. Good times in Boston. My leg hyperextended during a football game, causing a piece of my kneecap to snap off. I have a permanent limp to my walk. I was 16. Put my hand in the oven to get something out. My sister decided to give me a fright. Hand jerks up and hits the grill. Grill was on. Grilled backhand. I was about a year old, 86, and at my babysitter's house. She was helping someone with their taxes and I was walking around. I tripped and smashed my forehead on a corner of a grandfather clock. The first time I traveled to Australia, my cousin and I were attacked by a cassowary. I didn't provoke it. I think it wanted my food. I managed to fight it off with an umbrella, but not before it kicked me, leaving a gash on my left arm that is still a very visible scar nearly 10 years later. I was 13 then, 22 now. I also have a scar on my stomach from where I fell down a flight of stairs carrying a pot of boiling water, which ended up all over my chest and stomach and giving me 1st and 2nd degree burns. But that's a less interesting story. I've got a wicked scar across my left eye from a flying golf club. Scar running up my right leg from when I fell off a cliff while bouldering and landed in a tree. Scar running up my left leg when I was scurrying up a ladder to break up a fight between 2 go-go dancers in a catwalk cage thing in a club while working security. Those are the most interesting ones, but I've got plenty more. I'd write more but I'm at work and shouldn't even be on Reddit, haha. You see, my father was a drinker. No, but seriously, I was hit by a Chevy Blazer when I was in the 7th grade. Whole left side of my body slid on asphalt for about a foot. Snorkeling in the Caribbean and swam under a glass bottom boat to wave to my buddies from below. The bottom of the boat was covered in barnacles and the water was choppy. The boat bobbed down on my back. Blood everywhere. The upper right part of my back has some crazy looking parallel scars, and I'm just glad there weren't any sharks around. Another scar was from getting lost in a rainforest. Went hiking with my friends to a waterfall in the mountains. I tried to get through the brush to the top of the waterfall to wave to my buddies below. Coming back down, I got turned around and lost. Eventually followed the sound of the river and slid down a hill into the water. Huge slice on my right wrist. Made my way back to the party a couple hours later. Poured some whiskey on the wound and recounted my adventure over the barbecue. Others. Red hot bit head broke off a milling machine and landed on my foot. Hit on the head with a kayak paddle. Skinned my knee on a sidewalk. Stabbed in the wrist with a rusted nail while climbing a building. Part of my wrist is now permanently numb. Clotheslined by a clothesline, but the scar is barely visible. Sliced my thumb to the bone with a razor blade while trying to build a crow's nest for a model ship. Couple spots on my arm from chickenpox. TL. DR. Don't try to wave to people from dangerous places, and be sure to get your tetanus shots. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.